Good night to everyone. We are group number 2, and we will talk about the cultural aspects in English language education. According to Riyadh, in the last days for me, culture is populations of any part of the world. In the first place, culture can have many changes over time, that to the new generations can make way which traditions can choose different elements that allow them to adapt to the custom of each epoch. Um, Equally important, teaching a languages can be affected by culture, and it's changing because it can go through the same process of changes and adaptation used by new generations who helps languages to acquire the new elements in the long run. A foreign languages teacher has to be able to integrate culture aspect into teaching of a second languages for the students learn both culture, both structures and vocabulary of a second idiom, and it's use a culture of the country which speak it. In this case of English, it is a language so when widely used in the world. It can present many variations in terms of pronunciation, with many cultures around the world. Hence, always be a fundamental part of people and the way they use and learn an idioms. The process learning of foreign languages can be more complex than it seems because it cannot avoid to make a relationship with the cultural knowledge. For instance, a student who tries to learn English can appreciate how population from countries which talk in it officially make some sentences or phrases using words to give new meaning to expression they use in their routines. And beside that, culture allow both people from different countries to have their remarkable accents and slangs, which enrich the use of languages. And there are important aspects at the moment to learn and acquire a foreign languages. In other hands, knowing new culture through languages can help learners to expand their meanings and to know customs and traditions around the world, and which can encourage to interact with some culture while they share information about their own cultures. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I agree with you, Dalia. You mentioned that because you mentioned that culture involves and refers to all those traits and characteristics that represent the different group within a society, right? And in other words, tradition, ideologies, customs, and habits uh, are what characterize and at the same time cause each member of society feel identified. Besides, it is important to mention that culture and language are completely related since one depends language, understand each of its meanings and identify the differences between their native language and their target language in a cultural context, right? Time they need to know about the culture of that country. For instance, in this case, we are going to teach English, and that means every learner have to feel motivated about all these beautiful things that the American culture has. And inside the classroom, I consider that is more than talking about grammar and extensive documents. Culture is more than be inside the classroom. Culture involves many things. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. For me, a culture refers to the characteristic and knowledge of the growth of people encompassing the language and the religions and the music and the art. It can also be described as a complex set of the collective human belief and given the time, the appearance or it is important in a new language, not just for ours, and the correct use of this language in a daily interaction. We know that when we talk the culture, learning is the process of acquiring the culture specific and the culture general knowledge, skills, and attitude required for effective communication and interaction with the individuals from our culture. Culture is built by society over the years, and also it involved in the change. And however, is that exists a connection between the culture and the English language teachings. Therefore, to teach in the English, it is necessary to take into account the culture do exist various expressions and the broad growth and history that influence the language. And we know that all the human beings are the shaped by the culture in which we live. And so we had accordingly possibly and examine our behavior and comparison it with other could make us a wonder if the thinking and the action in our country of are really the best. Thus, we will become more tolerant and open the toward and others. Thank you.
Hi guys. Wanted to talk about some other aspects that are very related with this process of learning a new language based on the culture, right? So basically, there are a lot of things, as you mentioned before, that are really necessary to teach in our courses, because I consider that when we are learning English, and because we are talking about English, right? So when we are learning the English, there are many things that we can take into consideration to learning better, faster, and improve every single skills that we can learn. For example, we are outside the United States. We are living in a country that we are not speaking English as a native speakers. So that means that we need to be related with the culture to get it better, to get it to make the language part of our daily basis. And also there are other things that culture makes help us basically to understand and to get it the language. I consider that the culture and the language are related, are relatives, because one depends on the others. language is part of the culture, and the culture, yes, and one depends of the other. So I consider that we need to be on the same line, on the same page, both things. Because if we are only teaching grammar, students get upset, get boring, or if we are only talking about speaking ways or writing or reading books, so students get a little bit upset about it and boring and don't like to learn new languages. So we are the ones who makes the language funny. The people make the, I don't know how to say, we are the ones to call the attention of the people to learn the language, because we are teachers. So that means that we need to call the attention of our students. We know that we as young girls, we love the music, we love the places. So based on those things, we need to plan our classes to call the attention, to make the students involved to the culture of the language that we are learning. So that is my point. So that's all. Thank you, guys.
The culture has always influenced the language in which we can communicate with people from different countries and learn from their cultures. I think culture help develop a speaking skill through a spontaneous conversation, for example, and provides vocabulary in context by reading. Also, teaching culture is important because when the students learn in an environment that is surrounded by cultural aspect, then the students will have a better understanding. Also, they will have a greater interest in the target language. So the students need to become familiar with the culture of the target language to interpret intercultural communication. Thank you.
Okay, hi. So just to summarize everything that has already been said, language and culture are intertwined. So with each one relying so much on the other, it makes sense that whenever we teach or learn a language, cultural aspects are also present and addressed. One of the first things we are commonly taught when we are starting to acquire or learn a new language is that we should try to think with it rather than just trying to translate our ideas from our L1 to our L2. So by knowing the culture behind the language, in our case, it's American English, the one that we are most commonly taught here in Honduras, we will have a better scenario and therefore manipulation of words in context when trying to think in said language, since we will be capable of relating each term with the cultural background information provided. So, for instance, by letting students know that there are several variants of English, such as British English, Australian English, Irish English, American, Canadian, etc., they can become aware of the different meanings of some expressions that some words can have depending on who they are speaking with. The usual examples of these terms, for example, football, that we use football here in Honduras the same way that most of the world uses it. But for example, if we go to United States and we say football, they are going to think that we are making like talking about American football, right? The ones that they like don't have like the uh, goal thingies. I don't know how those are called, but the thing is that it's different, right? So we have football and we have soccer. So in United States they refer to soccer to our football. And so by knowing their culture, we can better understand these differences. And the other example that I usually encounter a lot is the word trainers, that in some countries they use trainers as talking to their exercising suits, their pants sometimes, and then trainers are also referred to tennis shoes. Tennis shoes. So it all depends on the culture of the people we are speaking with. So what I'm trying to illustrate is how if we isolate these words from their culture, it could lead to misunderstandings that could be avoided by just knowing more about how natives refer to set things in their communities, in their everyday use. So overall, we can conclude that that if someone wants to achieve fluency in a foreign language, it is crucial for them to study the culture as well, to which the language belongs, because like we have noticed that language is inside of a culture, right? So the more we know about the people that use it every day, the language, and that easier it is for us to adapt and express our thoughts correctly, as we will be thinking in the language within their context. So that was it for our group discussion, and hope you like our ideas, and goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.